The laughter echoed through the Galactic Council chambers like rolling thunder. Ambassador Park Min-jun stood at the human delegation podium, his face calm despite the mockery surrounding him. Above, holographic displays showed ancient Earth military records that the Council had somehow obtained. Ghost fleets. High Chancellor Vexthor wheezed, his reptilian features twisted in amusement. The humans actually believed in ghost fleets. Ships that could vanish and reappear at will. More laughter erupted from the assembled delegates. Representatives from 47 species filled the massive chamber, and nearly all of them seemed to find humanity's military history hilarious. Park waited. He had learned patience in his 20 years as Earth's representative. Let them laugh. Let them think what they wanted. "And look at this one," called out Ambassador Threlix, a insectoid diplomat from the Hive worlds. Her translator projected her clicking speech into common language. The Void Guardians. Humanity actually told stories about secret protectors hiding in dark space. She paused for effect. How wonderfully primitive. The chamber erupted again. Park noticed that not everyone was laughing. The Keltharian observer in the back remained silent, her 3 eyes watching him carefully. The young Torvin delegate seemed uncomfortable with the mockery. But they were minorities. Most of the Council found humanity's past endlessly amusing. It had been 200 years since Earth joined galactic civilization. 2 centuries since humanity discovered they were far from alone in the universe. In that time, humans had learned humility. They saw alien technology that made their best inventions look like stone tools. They witnessed energy shields that could stop any projectile, weapons that could crack planets, ships that crossed the galaxy in days, and they learned to keep quiet about certain things. "Honored delegates," Park finally spoke, his voice cutting through the noise. "I did not share these records with the Council." "No, you did not," Vexthor agreed, still chuckling. "Your species has such vivid imaginations. Ghost fleets, void guardians, hidden armadas, waiting in the dark." He shook his massive head. "Delightful fiction." "They are historical records," Park said quietly. "Not fiction." This brought fresh waves of laughter. "Historical records of myths and legends," Threlix corrected. "Really, Ambassador, you cannot expect us to believe humanity actually maintained secret military forces. Your species has been completely transparent with this Council for 200 years. We know everything about your military capabilities. 3 defensive fleets, 12 patrol groups, standard energy weapons and kinetic systems. Nothing hidden. Nothing special." Park said nothing. What could he say? The Council believed what they wanted to believe. "But enough amusement," Vexthor announced, calling the session to order. "We move to the actual agenda. The approaching Carthax swarm." The holographic displays changed, showing a spreading darkness at the galaxy's edge. Intelligence reports scrolled past, each one more dire than the last. "Our deep space monitoring stations detected the swarm 3 months ago," Vexthor continued. "They are still 6 weeks from our nearest colony worlds. Initial projections suggest they number in the millions of individual ships. Our combined fleet outnumbers them 4 to 1, Threlix stated confidently. And our technology is vastly superior. The Carthax use biological ships, no shields, no energy weapons. They will break against our defenses, like waves against a cliff." Park raised his hand. "If I may speak?" Vexthor gestured permission, though his expression showed little interest. "Earth has encountered species like the Carthax before," Park said carefully. "In our early space exploration, before we met the Council, we have extensive data on swarm-type organisms. Their strength is not in individual power but in adaptability and overwhelming numbers. I strongly recommend." "You recommend?" Threlix interrupted. "Ambassador Park, with all respect to your species, you have no experience with threats of this scale. The most dangerous thing humanity ever fought was yourselves." She clicked with amusement. "And according to your own legends, you hid from that threat, rather than facing it directly." We learned from our mistakes, Park replied, keeping his voice level. That is why we survived. The Council appreciates Earth's concern, Vexthor said in a tone that clearly meant the opposite. But we have defended this galaxy for 10,000 years. We have shields that can withstand supernovas, weapons that reshape reality. The combined military might of the Council is beyond anything humanity has ever witnessed. I understand your confidence, Park said, but I ask that you at least review the tactical data we have compiled. The Carthax are not like enemies you have faced before. They adapt. They learn. They are insects, Threlix said flatly. Dangerous insects. Yes, but insects nonetheless. They will be dealt with accordingly. Park tried one more time. Then, at least allow us to position our forces to help evacuate civilians if, Vexthor's voice turned cold. There is no if, Ambassador. There will be no evacuation because there will be no breakthrough. The Council's forces will obliterate this swarm long before they reach any populated worlds. He leaned forward. Unless you are suggesting that the Council's military is insufficient, perhaps you think humanity's 3 little fleets could do better? The challenge hung in the air. Park knew a trap when he heard one. If he pushed further, it would seem like arrogance. It would damage Earth's standing in the Council. His job was to maintain good relations, not to force his opinions on species who had been spacefaring when humanity still lived in caves. The Council's wisdom exceeds my own, Park said finally, the formal phrase of acceptance. Indeed, Vexthor agreed. This session is concluded. The Council fleet will deploy in 2 weeks. The Carthax swarm will be destroyed. This threat will become another footnote in the Council's long history of victories. The delegates filed out, many still chuckling about human legends and ghost fleets. Park remained at his podium, organizing his data tablets with careful precision. The Keltharian observer approached him as the chamber emptied. You know something, she said quietly. Something you are not saying. Park met her 3-eyed gaze. I know that confidence without preparation is just another word for foolishness. Will you warn them again? They will not listen, Park said. They see us as children playing with toy weapons. They cannot imagine that we might have learned something they have not. And have you? Park smiled slightly. We learned that the species who survive are not always the strongest or the smartest. Sometimes they are simply the ones who remember their past and prepare for their future. The Keltharian studied him for a long moment. I hope for all our sakes that you are wrong, Ambassador Park. So do I, Park said honestly. After she left, Park stood alone in the empty chamber. He pulled out a secure communicator, one that used quantum encryption Earth had developed, but never shared with the Council. He typed a single message. They won't listen. Protocol Omega? The response came back in seconds, from a source that officially did not exist. Standing by. We hoped this day would never come. Park looked up at the holographic displays, still showing the approaching swarm. 6 weeks. The Council thought they had plenty of time. So did we. Park whispered to the empty chamber. He thought of the old records, the ones the Council had laughed at. The ghost fleets, the void guardians, the hidden armadas. Let them laugh at legends, he thought. Legends survive because they are true. He left the chamber and began the long walk back to the human embassy. There was much to prepare, and very little time to do it. The Council would learn, one way or another. He just hoped the lesson would not cost too many lives. Behind him, the massive doors sealed shut, leaving the chamber in darkness. The emergency session began in chaos. Ambassador Park Min-jun entered the Council chambers to find delegates shouting over each other, holographic displays showing scenes of destruction, and High Chancellor Vexthor looking 20 years older than he had 3 weeks ago. Order! Vexthor's voice boomed, but few listened. Order! Park took his place at the human delegation podium. He had already seen the reports. 3 colony worlds gone. The Council fleet reduced by 60% in the first engagement. The Carthax swarm spreading like a plague across the outer systems. It was worse than he had feared. The Turvan colony is lost, Ambassador Threlix was saying, her translator barely keeping up with her frantic clicking. 2 billion civilians. They are all gone. The swarm consumed everything. Buildings, ships, people, everything. Our shields failed. Another delegate reported, his voice hollow with shock. The swarm's bioweapons adapted to our frequencies within minutes. They passed through our defenses like they were not even there. Park listened as the reports continued. The picture became clearer with each one. The Council had assumed they faced a simple enemy, one they could overwhelm with superior technology. Instead, they encountered something their technology could not handle. The Carthax did not use energy weapons, so energy shields meant nothing. They did not rely on computer systems, so electronic warfare was useless. They learned and adapted faster than the Council could adjust their tactics. Each victory against them became meaningless as they evolved new responses. "Where is Fleet Commander Zeknor?" someone asked. Silence fell over the chamber. "Dead," Vex Thor said quietly. His flagship was overwhelmed during the retreat from the Kelrus system. He stayed behind to allow the civilian transports to escape. The old reptilian's voice cracked. His son commanded one of those transports. More silence. Park felt the weight of it. The Council had lost more than ships and soldiers. They had lost their certainty, their confidence, their unshakable belief in their own superiority. What do we do? The question came from a young delegate. Park did not recognize. How do we stop them? How do we stop them? We cannot, Threlix said flatly. Our projections show the swarm reaching the core worlds within 30 days. They outnumber us now. Every ship they destroy, every world they consume, they grow stronger while we grow weaker. She turned to Vex Thor. We must evacuate. Begin moving civilians to the inner systems. Buy time to develop new weapons, new defenses. And if those fail as well? Someone asked. No one answered. Park raised his hand. Every eye in the chamber turned to him. Earth wishes to offer assistance, he said simply. Threlix made a sound that the translator interpreted as bitter laughter. No offense, Ambassador, but humanity's 3 defensive fleets will make no difference against. We have more than 3 fleets, Park interrupted quietly. The chamber went silent again. But this time, it was different. This was the silence of shock, not grief. Explain, Vex Thor demanded. Before Park could answer, a holographic figure materialized beside him. It showed a woman in a dark uniform. Human, with hard eyes and gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. She wore insignia that no council member recognized. Fleet Admiral Kim So-ra. The woman introduced herself. United Earth Defense Command. I believe we can help with your swarm problem. Defense Command? Threlix's tone was sharp. There is no such organization in your registered military structure. Correct, Admiral Kim agreed. It does not officially exist. But it has existed for 200 years, since the day Earth joined the Galactic Council. Vex Thor stood, his massive frame towering even in holographic form. You lied to us. For 2 centuries, humanity has maintained secret military forces. We maintained defensive capabilities, Park corrected. And we did not lie. We simply did not share information you did not ask for. Semantics, Threlix shouted. This is a betrayal of enough, Vex Thor said tiredly. He looked at Admiral Kim. What are you proposing? I am proposing we save as many lives as possible, Kim replied. I have been monitoring the Carthax swarm since before your deep space stations detected them. We have tactical data, behavioral analysis, and a plan. Why should we trust you? Someone asked. Because you have no other choice, Kim said bluntly. In 30 days, the swarm will reach your core worlds. You cannot stop them with the forces you have left. You need us. The truth of it hung heavy in the air. Park saw it on every face in the chamber. Pride warred with desperation, and desperation was winning. What do you need from us? Vex Thor asked finally. Send all civilian ships to these coordinates. Kim transmitted data to the Council's systems. Every transport, every passenger vessel, every colony ship you have. Get them there within 2 weeks. Delegates studied the coordinates. This is the dead zone, Threlix said slowly. There is nothing there. Empty space. No systems. No resources. Why send civilians to? Because it is where they will be safest, Kim interrupted. And because it is where our forces are positioned. Your forces? Vex Thor's eyes narrowed. Kim smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Enough. That is not an answer. It is the only answer you are getting, Kim said. Here are my terms. You send your civilians to the coordinates. You do not ask questions about what you see there. You do not demand access to our tactical systems. You do not interfere with our operations. In return, we will stop the swarm. Impossible, Threlix said. We cannot agree to such terms. We need to know what forces you have, what weapons. What? 28 days, Kim cut her off. That is how long until the swarm reaches Threll Prime. Your homeworld. Your fleet is broken. Your weapons have proven useless. Your people will die. The chamber erupted in arguments. Some delegates demanded full disclosure. Others wanted to know what humanity had been hiding. A few simply sat in shocked silence. Park watched Admiral Kim's hologram. They had worked together for 15 years, though few people knew it. He understood what she was doing. She was giving the Council a choice, but framing it so there was really only one option. I do not like this, Vex Thor said finally. Humanity has kept secrets. Maintained hidden forces. This goes against everything the Council stands for. The Council stands for protecting its citizens, Park reminded him gently. Or, has that changed? Vex Thor glared at him, but there was defeat in his eyes. How do we know you can actually stop the swarm? You do not, Admiral Kim said. But you know we have been preparing for something like this for 200 years. You know we studied the swarm before any of you knew it existed, and you know we would not be making this offer if we were not confident in our capabilities. Confidence, Threlix said bitterly. We were confident too. Look where that brought us. Human confidence is different, Park said quietly. We have been the monsters before. We nearly destroyed ourselves. We learned what happens when you are unprepared, when you are arrogant, when you think you are invincible. He looked around the chamber. We learned that survival requires sacrifice, preparation, and accepting help when it is offered. The vote took an hour. In the end, it was not even close. Fear won over pride. Survival instinct conquered suspicion. We accept your terms, Vex Thor said heavily. We will evacuate civilians to your coordinates. We will not interfere. He paused. But understand this, Admiral Kim. If you fail, if this is some scheme, if you endanger Council citizens, if we fail, Kim interrupted, none of us will be alive to worry about consequences. She nodded to Park. Begin evacuations immediately. The swarm moves faster than your projections suggest. You have less time than you think. Her hologram vanished. The Council chamber dissolved into organized chaos as delegates rushed to coordinate the largest evacuation in galactic history. Park remained at his podium, sending coded messages to Earth and to other human outposts scattered across the galaxy. The Keltharian observer approached him again. This is real, she said softly. The legends. The ghost fleets. All of it. Yes, Park confirmed. Why hide it? Why not share this strength with the Council? Park thought about how to answer. Because strength without wisdom is dangerous. We had to learn wisdom first. Had to prove to ourselves that we could be trusted with power. He smiled slightly. And because weapons are most effective when your enemy does not know they exist. The swarm is everyone's enemy. Yes, Park agreed. And now everyone will see what humanity has become. I just hope they are ready for it. The observer left him with his thoughts. Park looked at the holographic star map, watching red markers spread across it like blood. The swarm was coming. But so was something the galaxy had not seen in 200 years. Humanity. Unrestrained and fully armed. The refugee fleet stretched across the void like scattered stars. Park Min-jun stood on the observation deck of the civilian command vessel, watching thousands of ships drift in formation. Transports from 100 worlds, carrying billions of refugees, children who had lost their homes, parents who had watched their worlds burn. Entire civilizations reduced to what they could carry on their backs. They are frightened, said a small voice beside him. Park looked down. A young alien child stood there, barely reaching his waist. She had the purple skin and large eyes of a Keltharian. Her name was Zilen, and her homeworld had been the first to fall. Yes, Park agreed. He would not lie to her. They are frightened. Are you frightened? Xilen asked. Park considered this. I am concerned, but I have hope. Why? We are in the middle of nothing. Zilen gestured at the view screen. The dead zone. No planets, no stars close by. If the swarm finds us here, we cannot run, we cannot hide. That is true, Park said. But we are not here to run or hide. Before Zilen could ask more questions, alarms began to sound throughout the ship. Not emergency alarms, but coordination signals. All around them, refugees rushed to viewports and observation decks. Park's communicator chirped. Admiral Kim's voice came through, transmitted to every ship in the fleet. All vessels, this is Fleet Admiral Kim So-ra. Maintain current positions. Do not be alarmed by what you are about to witness. You are completely safe. What is happening? Zilen asked, pressing her face against the viewport. Watch, Park told her gently. In the distance, space began to shimmer. At first, it was subtle, like heat waves on a summer road. Then, the shimmer intensified, spreading across the void in all directions. What is that? Someone gasped. The shimmer became distortion. Reality itself seemed to bend and twist. And then, like a curtain being pulled back, massive structures began to appear. First came the shipyards. Enormous orbital construction facilities, each one larger than most space stations. They hung in the void like sleeping giants, their surfaces scarred by 2 centuries of careful maintenance. Then came the defense platforms, weapons stations bristling with armaments Park knew the Council had never seen before. They formed a perimeter around the refugee fleet, hundreds of them, creating an impenetrable wall of firepower. More structures appeared. Supply depots, repair facilities, command stations, communication arrays, an entire hidden infrastructure, built and maintained in secret for 200 years. By the old gods, someone whispered. But Park knew they had not seen anything yet. The largest distortions appeared at the edges of the dead zone. Space folded in on itself, and through the folds came ships. Not just ships, warships. They emerged from the void like predators waking from sleep. Massive dreadnoughts, their hulls painted in dark colors that seemed to absorb light. Sleek cruisers with lines that spoke of speed and violence, carriers that could launch 1,000 fighters. Destroyers built for close combat. Frigates designed for hit and run attacks. And they kept coming. The refugees watched in stunned silence as humanity's hidden armada revealed itself. Hundreds of ships, each one a masterwork of military engineering. Each one bearing names in languages from Earth's past. Names like times, indomitable times and times, defiance times and times. Remember the fallen asterisk. How? Threlix's voice came over an open channel, broadcasting to the entire fleet. How did you hide all of this? Admiral Kim's response was calm. We built them in the dead zone. using materials harvested from the dark matter clouds that make sensors useless here. We crewed them in secret, with volunteers who officially died in industrial accidents or exploration missions. We waited and hoped we would never need to reveal them. 200 years, Vex Thor's voice joined the conversation. Park could hear the shock in it. For 200 years, humanity has maintained a battle fleet of this size, and we never knew. You never asked? Park said quietly, though he knew they could all hear him. You assumed humanity was weak because we did not boast about our strength. You thought we were harmless because we seemed peaceful. We lied to ourselves. The Keltharian observer added. She was aboard one of the other refugee ships. We saw what we wanted to see. Primitive humans, grateful to join our advanced civilization. We never considered you might have learned lessons we had not. Zealand tugged on Park's sleeve. Are those all human ships? Yes, Park confirmed. There are so many, the child whispered. I have never seen so many warships in one place. Park knelt down to her level. Do you know why we built them? Zealand shook her head. We built them because we remember. Park said softly. We remember what it is like to be afraid. We remember what it is like to lose everything. We remember the wars that almost destroyed us, and we promised ourselves something important. What? That we would never let others suffer what we suffered. That we would be ready to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Park smiled at her. We built these ships for you, Zealand, for all the children like you. So, you could be safe. Tears welled in the child's large eyes. She hugged Park suddenly, burying her face in his uniform. He held her gently, feeling the trembling in her small body. Around them, other refugees were reacting to the revelation. Some cried with relief. Others simply stared in disbelief. A few, like Threll Ix, seemed angry at the deception, but most just felt hope for the first time since the swarm arrived. Admiral Kim's voice cut through the chatter. All civilian vessels, move to the coordinates being transmitted now. Position yourselves behind the defense platforms. Military vessels are detecting the swarm's advance force. They will arrive in approximately 4 hours. 4. The mood shifted immediately. 4 hours. The swarm was coming. All human vessels. This is Admiral Kim. Battle stations. Prepare for combat. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill. Park watched as the Armada moved into formation. They did not move like council ships, with perfect precision and computer-calculated efficiency. They moved like predators, with an organic flow that spoke of human pilots and human instincts. Fighters launched from the carriers, thousands of them, forming complex patterns in the void. The dreadnoughts positioned themselves at the front, shields humming to life. The cruisers spread out into attack wings. The destroyers formed a secondary defensive line around the civilian fleet. We should move to a safer location, Park told Silen, gently breaking their embrace. Come on. As they walked through the ship's corridors, they passed viewing screens, showing the Armada's deployment. Park heard refugees talking in hushed voices. Did you see the size of those dreadnoughts? Look at the weapons. I have never seen configurations like that. They have nuclear missiles, actual nuclear warheads. Who still uses such primitive? Primitive or not, I am glad they are on our side. Park guided Silen to one of the designated safe zones, a reinforced section deep in the ship's interior. Other children were already gathering there, along with their guardians. Medical staff stood ready. Emergency supplies were stacked against the walls. Will you stay? Silen asked. For a little while, Park promised. But I need to help coordinate with the fleet. We will win, right? The child's voice was small. Your ships will stop the monsters? Park thought about how to answer. He could lie. Tell her everything would be fine. That there was nothing to worry about. But Zealand had already seen too much. She deserved the truth. We will fight with everything we have, he said. And we will fight for you. That is what matters. Zilan nodded slowly. My mother used to say that courage is not being unafraid. Courage is being afraid but fighting anyway. Your mother was wise, Park said. She died on our homeworld. Zilan said matter-of-factly. She made sure I got on the transport first. She was supposed to follow, but... The child's voice trailed off. Park felt his chest tighten. Then we fight for her too, he said firmly. For all the mothers and fathers who made sure their children survived. We do not let their sacrifices be meaningless. He left Shilan with the other children and made his way to the command deck. The ship's captain, a grizzled Torvan veteran, nodded to him. Hell of a thing, the captain muttered, gesturing at the screens showing the human armada. 200 years. They planned this for 200 years. Longer, Park corrected. We have been planning how to never repeat our mistakes for much longer than that. An alarm chimed. The tactical officer called out. Swarm advance force detected. Distance, 2 million kilometers and closing. Numbers. The officer paused. By the gods, estimate 300,000 individual contacts. 300,000. Against humanity's armada of a few hundred ships. But Park was not worried. He had seen the specifications. He knew what those ships could do. More importantly, he knew the humans crewing them. He knew their training, their determination, their willingness to sacrifice. He opened a secure channel to Admiral Kim. This is Ambassador Park. The civilians are secure. The fleet is yours, Admiral. Kim's response was immediate. Understood. All ships, this is actual. Weapons free. Rules of engagement. Nothing gets through to the civilian fleet. Nothing. If we have to ram them with our own ships, we do it. If we have to detonate our own reactors, we do it. Those refugees survive. That is our only mission. Across the human fleet, thousands of voices responded in unison. Park smiled. It was humanity's oldest creed. The one they had adopted after their last great war. The one they had lived by for 200 years. The swarm was coming. But humanity was ready, and the galaxy was about to learn what humans meant by never again. The Karthax swarm hit the human defensive line like a living tsunami. Commander Lee J-1 pulled his fighter into a hard turn, feeling the Gi forces push against his body despite the inertial dampeners. Behind him, his wing of 12 fighters followed in perfect formation. Not computer-assisted formation, pure pilot skill. Contacts at 3 o'clock, his wingman called out. 30-plus biofighters inbound. I see them, Lee confirmed. His displays showed the swarm fighters as red dots converging on his position. They were fast, he would give them that. And they moved with an eerie coordination that came from being part of a hive mind. But they had never fought humans before. Break by pairs, Lee ordered. Hammer and anvil pattern. His fighters split instantly, forming into 6 pairs. The swarm fighters pursued, probably thinking the humans were scattering in fear. They were wrong. Lee waited until the enemy committed to their attack vectors. Then, now, the fighter pairs curved back on themselves in maneuvers that would have been impossible with AI-assisted controls. The computers could not react fast enough, could not anticipate the instinctive moves that came from years of training. But human pilots could. The swarm fighters found themselves suddenly facing targets that were behind them, above them, moving in ways their biology had not evolved to counter. Lee's cannons tore through 3 biofighters in rapid succession. Around him, his wing was doing the same. Scratch 12, his wingmen reported. They didn't know what hit them. Stay sharp, Lee warned. They learn fast. They won't fall for that trick twice. He was right. The next wave of swarm fighters approached more cautiously, spreading out, trying to surround his wing. Lee smiled grimly. They learned tactics. But they did not understand psychology. All wings, this is Admiral Kim, the fleet-wide channel crackled. The swarm is committing their main force. Dreadnoughts. Hold the line. Cruisers. Attack wings Delta through Gamma. Execute pincer formation. Destroyers. Prepare for close combat boarding actions. Lee watched his tactical display update. The human fleet was vastly outnumbered, but they were not fighting the way the swarm expected. Council fleets relied on long-range energy weapons and shields. They fought clean, technological battles. Humanity fought dirty. The dreadnought times. Indomitable Asterisk, Admiral Kim's flagship, anchored the center of the defensive line. Its massive railguns opened fire, hurling projectiles the size of small shuttles at relativistic speeds. The swarm's bioships had no shields to stop them. The kinetic rounds simply punched straight through, destroying dozens of ships with each shot. "They're trying to adapt," the tactical officer on the command channel reported. "Growing thicker. Armor. Plating. Switch to explosive rounds," Kim ordered calmly. "Let's see them adapt to that." The railguns fired again, but this time, the rounds detonated inside the swarm ships. Biological tissue was tough, but it could not survive internal explosions. More swarm vessels died. Lee brought his fighter into the thick of the battle. Swarm biofighters swarmed around human cruisers like angry insects. But the cruisers were ready. Their point defense systems did not rely on precision energy weapons. They used old-fashioned flak cannons, filling space with explosive projectiles that detonated in spreading patterns. The swarm fighters flew into walls of shrapnel and died by the hundreds. "This is Destroyer Wing 7, a voice called over the fleet channel. "We have swarm boarding ships attempting to latch onto our hull. Permission to engage protocol, Charlie?" the destroyer's captain asked. "Granted," Admiral Kim replied. Lee happened to be close enough to see what happened next. The destroyer, a ship called Times Remember Series Asterisk, suddenly vented atmosphere from multiple points along its hull. The sudden explosive decompression blew the swarm boarding ships away. Then the destroyer's crew, wearing full combat armor, emerged from airlocks and began picking off the disoriented swarm creatures with projectile weapons. It was brutal. It was primitive. It was absolutely effective. "They're not used to prey that fights back," Lee muttered, destroying another biofighter. His wingman laughed darkly. "We're not prey. We're from Earth. We invented fighting back." The battle raged for hours. The swarm kept adapting, kept learning, kept throwing new tactics at the human fleet. They tried overwhelming numbers. They tried focused attacks on single ships. They tried to slip smaller ships through the defensive line. Nothing worked. Every adaptation the swarm made, humanity had a counter. Thick armor? Use armor-piercing rounds. Spread formation? Cluster bombs. Attempting to jam communications? Humans fell back on hand signals and predetermined tactics. "They don't understand," Admiral Kim said over a private channel to her command staff. "The Council fights with their technology. When their technology fails, they have nothing left. We fight with our minds, our tactics, our willingness to adapt. And we never give up." End of user. Lee watched a human cruiser take heavy damage. Its hull breached in a dozen places. The ship was dying. But instead of retreating, it accelerated toward the largest concentration of swarm vessels. "This is Time's Defiant Asterisk," the cruiser's captain announced calmly. "We have lost main power and weapons. Hull integrity at 12%. Crew evacuating to escape pods." A pause. "Setting collision course with swarm hive ship. It has been an honor serving with you all." APA. APA. Understood. Asterisk. Defiant Asterisk. Admiral Kim replied, her voice tight. "Your sacrifice will not be forgotten." Lee watched the cruiser ram into the massive hive ship at full speed. The explosion lit up the void like a newborn star. When the light faded, both ships were gone, along with hundreds of smaller swarm vessels caught in the blast. "Escape pods from Time's Defiant Times recovered," someone reported. "Full crew accounted for." Lee felt relief wash over him. They had lost the ship, but the crew survived. That was what mattered. The battle continued. Lee's fighter was hit, shields failing, left engine sputtering. He compensated, flying on manual control and pure instinct. A swarm fighter lined up behind him, preparing to fire. His wingman appeared from nowhere, destroying the threat. "I got you, boss." "Thanks," Lee breathed. "Don't mention it. Just buy me a drink when this is over." "Deal." Admiral Kim's voice cut through the chatter. "All vessels, the swarm is committing their command ship. This is it. Everything we have. Target that ship. If we kill it, the rest will scatter." Lee's tactical display highlighted a massive bioship at the center of the swarm formation. It was easily 10 times larger than any other vessel. A grotesque combination of organic tissue and stolen technology. The Swarm Queen's ship. Every human vessel still capable of fighting turned toward it. The swarm reacted instantly, throwing everything they had at the human fleet to protect their queen. It was exactly what Admiral Kim wanted. "Cruiser wings. Execute pincer formation. Now," she ordered. Fast attack cruisers that had been holding back suddenly accelerated from opposite directions. They had been waiting, pretending to be damaged or out of position. Now they struck like vipers. The swarm tried to respond, but their forces were committed to the frontal assault. The cruisers tore into the Queen ship's escorts, clearing a path. "Dreadnoughts. Firing solution locked," the weapons officer reported. "Fire," Kim said simply. Every dreadnought in the human fleet fired at once. Railgun rounds, missile salvos, and even old nuclear warheads streaked through space. The swarm tried desperately to intercept them. But there were too many, coming from too many angles. The weapons struck the Queen ship in a devastating barrage. Its biological armor held for a moment, then began to fail. Explosions rippled across its surface. The ship tried to regenerate, to adapt, but it could not heal fast enough. Lee watched as the massive vessel began to break apart. "It's working," he whispered. The Queen ship died in a series of catastrophic explosions, and with its death, something changed in the swarm. The coordinated attacks became chaotic. Bioships began firing on each other, confused without the Queen's guiding intelligence. "All vessels, mop up operations," Admiral Kim ordered. "But stay alert. Some may still be dangerous." It took another 2 hours to destroy or scatter the remaining swarm vessels. By the end, space was filled with debris, both biological and mechanical. The human fleet had taken heavy casualties, 15 ships destroyed, 30 more damaged beyond immediate repair, thousands of fighters lost. But the refugee fleet behind them was untouched. Not a single civilian ship had been harmed. Lee guided his damaged fighter back to his carrier, feeling exhaustion wash over him. His hands were shaking on the controls. He had been fighting for 8 straight hours. As he landed, his ground crew rushed to help him out of the cockpit. "Hell of a fight, Commander," the crew chief said. Lee nodded wearily. "How many did we lose from our wing?" 4 pilots. But they all ejected. Recovery teams are picking them up now. 4 pilots. Out of 200 in his wing. It could have been so much worse. He made his way to the pilot's ready room and collapsed into a chair. Around him, other pilots were doing the same. They did not celebrate. They just sat in exhausted silence, grateful to be alive. A message came through on the fleet channel. Admiral Kim's voice, but softer now. "All hands. This is Admiral Kim. The swarm has been defeated. The refugees are safe. You fought with honor and courage. You proved once again why humanity's strength lies not in our weapons, but in our unwillingness to surrender, our ability to adapt, and our commitment to protecting others." A pause. "Rest now. You have earned it." Lee closed his eyes. They had won. Against impossible odds, outnumbered 100 to 1, they had won, because they were human. And humans did not know how to quit. The Galactic Council met on Earth for the first time in its 10,000-year history. Ambassador Park Min-jun stood in the newly constructed chamber, watching delegates arrive. The building had been designed to blend human and alien architecture, a symbol of cooperation, but everyone knew the real reason the council was meeting here. Earth had saved them. Earth had earned the right to host. High Chancellor Vex Thor entered, moving slowly. The battle had aged him. His son had survived, commanding a civilian transport during the evacuation. But the old reptilian had lost many friends. He approached Park and offered the formal bow of respect. "Ambassador Park," he said quietly. "Thank you for having us. You honor us with your presence, Chancellor," Park replied with equal formality. The chamber filled. Delegates from every surviving species took their places. Many wore mourning colors for lost worlds and lost loved ones. But they were here. They had survived. Admiral Kim So-ra stood near the human delegation, no longer a hologram but present in person. She wore her full dress uniform, the one that bore medals from conflicts the Council had never known about. Beside her stood Commander Lee Jae-won and other officers from the human fleet. When everyone was seated, Vex Thor called the session to order. This council convenes to address three matters. First, the current status of the Carthax swarm. Second, the revelation of Earth's hidden military capabilities. Third, the future of galactic defense. He gestured to Admiral Kim. "Admiral, please report on the swarm." Kim stepped forward. "The main swarm force has been destroyed. Scattered remnants are fleeing toward the galactic rim. Our long-range patrols are tracking them. They no longer pose a threat to populated systems." She paused. "However, we estimate it will take 5 years of hunting to eliminate all remaining pockets. And you believe humanity can handle this task?" Threlix asked. Her tone was different now, less arrogant, more respectful. "With assistance from Council forces, yes," Kim replied. "We are not looking to do this alone. We never were." Vex Thor nodded slowly. "Which brings us to the second matter. Ambassador Park. Earth has maintained a secret military force for 200 years. You hid the true extent of your capabilities from this council. Explain." Park had prepared for this question. "We did not hide our capabilities out of malice, Chancellor. We hid them out of fear. Fear of us? Fear of ourselves." Park corrected. He took a breath. "Before we joined the council, humanity fought a series of wars that nearly destroyed our species. We developed weapons we should never have created. We killed billions of our own people. We turned Earth into a graveyard." The chamber was silent. Park continued. "When we finally achieved peace, we made a decision. We would keep our weapons, but we would hide them. Not from you, but from ourselves. We built the fleet in secret, crewed it with volunteers, and placed it somewhere we could not easily access. We did this because we did not trust ourselves with that much power." "Then why reveal it now?" someone asked. "Because the refugees needed us," Park said simply. "Because children like Zealand would have died. Because there comes a time when hiding your strength becomes the same as cowardice." A small voice spoke from the visitors' gallery. "May I speak?" Everyone turned. Zealand stood there, wearing formal robes that were too large for her small frame. Beside her stood hundreds of other children, refugees from dozens of worlds. Vex Thor looked surprised but nodded. "You may speak, young one." Zealand walked to the center of the chamber, her large eyes taking in all the assembled delegates. She held something in her hands, a piece of paper covered in crayon drawings. "The human ships saved us," she said, her voice clear despite her nervousness. "When the monsters came, when our worlds burned, when we thought we would die, the humans came. They fought for us. They protected us. They did not run away." She held up the drawing. It showed crude stick figures of human ships, surrounded by hearts and stars. In a child's handwriting, it said, "Thank you, Guardians." "We drew pictures," Zealand continued. "All of us. To thank the humans. Because they were there when no one else was. She looked directly at Vex Thor. You are angry they kept secrets, but I am alive because of their secrets. We are all alive because humans prepared for the worst. The child walked to Park and handed him the drawing. This is for you. For all of you. From all of us. And Park took the drawing with hands that trembled slightly. He looked at the simple artwork, the honest gratitude, and felt something break in his chest. Behind him, Admiral Kim blinked rapidly. Even Commander Lee looked away, wiping at his eyes. Zealand returned to the gallery. The chamber remained silent for a long moment. Finally, Vex Thor spoke. The child is right. We have lost sight of what matters. Yes, Earth kept secrets. But those secrets saved billions of lives. Perhaps we should be asking why they felt the need to keep such secrets in the first place. Because you did not listen to us, Park said quietly. When we warned you about the swarm, you laughed. When we offered tactical data from our own history, you dismissed it as primitive thinking. You saw us as children playing at war. He smiled sadly. So, we stopped trying to convince you with words. We prepared to convince you with actions. Threlix stood. I owe humanity an apology. I mocked your legends. I dismissed your warnings. I believed our technology made us superior. She looked around the chamber. The swarm proved me wrong. Sometimes primitive methods work better than advanced ones. Sometimes old wisdom is more valuable than new technology. The question is, Admiral Kim interjected, what do we do now? The swarm is gone, but other threats will emerge. The galaxy is not a safe place. We would like to offer Earth a permanent seat on the Council's military command, Vex Thor said. In fact, we would like to offer you overall command of galactic defense forces. Park and Kim exchanged glances. They had expected this. We respectfully decline, Kim said. Shock rippled through the chamber. You decline? Vex Thor repeated. To sacrifice. Kim interrupted. Yes, we are willing to sacrifice. But we are also aware of our own history. Giving humanity command of a galactic military force would be a mistake. Why? Someone asked. Park stepped forward. Because power corrupts. Because we have been monsters before, and we could become monsters again. Because the best guardians are the ones who understand how dangerous they are. Then what do you propose? Threlix asked. A partnership, Kim said. We will share our tactical knowledge. We will train Council forces in our methods. We will maintain our fleet, ready to respond to threats. But we will not command. We will not control. We will serve as the sword that others hope never to draw, but always ready if needed. Park added. We will be the guardians in the void. The ghost fleet of legend. But only when called upon. Only when there is no other choice. Vex Thor considered this. You would remain hidden? Return to secrecy? Not entirely, Admiral Kim replied. The galaxy knows we exist now, but we will not become a visible military force. We will patrol the dark spaces, monitor for threats, and maintain readiness. When you need us, we will come. Until then, we remain in the shadows. Why? The question came from a young delegate. Why not accept the glory? The recognition? Commander Lee stood. Because we do not do this for glory. We do it because it needs to be done. Because someone has to stand watch, while others sleep. Because we remember what happens when no one is prepared. The vote took hours of debate. But in the end, the Council agreed to Earth's proposal. A new treaty was drafted. Humanity would maintain its defensive fleet, but would not seek command of Council forces. In return, human tactical doctrine would be integrated into Council military training. Joint exercises would be conducted. Knowledge would be shared. Most importantly, the treaty included a promise. If any species faced extinction-level threat, humanity would respond with full force. The signing ceremony took place at sunset. Park stood with Admiral Kim and Commander Lee, as representatives from every council species added their marks to the document. Afterward, there was a formal reception. Park found himself surrounded by delegates wanting to thank him, to apologize for their earlier dismissals, to understand more about humanity. He handled each conversation with diplomatic grace, but he was relieved when the crowd finally thinned. He stepped onto a balcony overlooking the city, breathing in the cool evening air. Jillian found him there. "Ambassador Park?" He smiled down at her. "Hello, Jillian. Are you enjoying the party?" "It is too loud," she admitted. "Too many people." She stood beside him at the railing. "Are you really going to hide again? Go back to the void?" "Seven." "Yes," Park said. "That is where we belong." "I will miss you," the child said softly. Park felt his throat tighten. "We will still be here. Just because you cannot see us does not mean we are gone. We will be watching, protecting, ready. Like guardians," Jillian said. "Exactly like guardians." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Shilen asked, "Why did the other species laugh at your legends? The ghost fleets and void guardians?" Park thought about how to answer. "Because legends sound like fantasy when you have never seen them proven true. Because advanced technology makes people forget that sometimes the old ways still work. Because they had never faced something that their technology could not defeat." "But you had," Jillian said. "Yes, we had. We faced ourselves, and we barely survived. That taught us never to assume we were invincible, never to forget that preparation matters more than pride. The other children say humans are the strongest warriors in the galaxy now," Jillian said. Park shook his head. "We are not the strongest. We are just the most stubborn, the most willing to adapt, the most determined to protect others because we remember what it is like to have no one protect us." Behind them, someone cleared their throat. Admiral Kim stood in the doorway. "Sorry to interrupt. The council wants one final meeting. Just the senior members." Park nodded. He knelt down to Jillian's level. "You should find your guardian. It is getting late." The child hugged him suddenly. "Thank you for saving us. Thank you for being there when we needed you." "That is what legends do," Park whispered. "We show up when we are needed most." The final meeting was brief. Vex Thor presented humanity with a formal commendation, a crystal that would be placed in the Council's Hall of Heroes. Admiral Kim accepted it gracefully. "One last question," Threlix said. "The Armada we saw, that was everything, correct? No more hidden forces?" Kim smiled slightly. "Admiral, if I answered that question, they would not be hidden anymore, would they?" Threlix stared at her, then began to laugh. Soon, the whole room was laughing, releasing the tension of recent weeks. Later that night, Park stood in mission control, watching as the human fleet began its departure. One by one, the great warships lifted from Earth's orbit and jumped to hyperspace. They were returning to the dead zone, to the void, to the darkness between stars. "Do you think they will really call on us again?" Commander Lee asked. "Eventually," Park said, "there will always be threats, always be dangers, and we will always respond." Admiral Kim added, joining them, "Because that is who we are. That is who we chose to become." Park watched the last ship disappear from the screens. The Armada was gone, returning to legend. But now, the legends were proven true. Let them laugh at legends, he thought, echoing his words from weeks ago. Legends survive because they are true. And humanity's greatest legend was this: they would always be there, in the darkness, watching and waiting. The guardians no one saw, but everyone needed. The sword that others hoped never to draw, but always, always ready when called upon. The screens went dark. The void was empty again. But Park knew better. Somewhere out there, humanity stood watch. and they would never stop.